Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to install SWLU because the process is quite complicated, as SWLU is an overhaul for an overhaul of X3. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is obtain all the files from the ModDB page. So here's the SWLU page. Go to Files. You need to download the latest version. In this case it's 1.2.2. Come here, hit download now. You will use this right here to download the mod. So once you download that, you need to go to, if you hit read more here, I'll have some links for you. Go to these links and you need these things as well. So this is Litcube's universe. You need to download the base 1.7.1, the patch 1.7.2. Import export, you don't need that. If you know what that is, then you obviously already know how to use that. Soundtrack, you need that, and you need GUI installer as well. I highly recommend Joubarbe's satellite monitoring. It's a very useful script that will allow you to salvage ships easily and find things in the universe with a very helpful menu. You can download that here on this link. And then the other thing is, if you have the game on Steam and would you like to make a separate installation or run it without Steam, you can go to Egosoft and get the No Steam exe. This will let you run this game without Steam, which is what I'm going to do with this example. So once you have all of that downloaded, you need to install the game on Steam. Make sure you have no other mods installed. So once you install the game on Steam, you need to find the Steam installation. So that can be found here. Program Files 86, Steam, Steam Apps, Common, and then you'll have X3 Terran Conflict. So this is where vanilla X3 is installed. So what you need to do is, in this case, I'm not going to install the mod in the Steam version. I'm going to make a separate installation, in this case on the desktop. So I'm going to copy the entire game directory to the desktop. X3 Terran Conflict, and we will return once that is completed. Okay, so I just copied my entire game directory out of Steam. I was just about to finish. On the left here are all the files I mentioned earlier. We have SWLU, we have the No Steam exe, Litcube's universe, and Joubarbe's scripts. All of this is going to be installed into the base game. So let's start with the No Steam exe. So extract the files. We'll go ahead and delete that. We don't need it anymore. So in X3 Terran Conflict, I'm going to close Steam right now. So this is our game right here on the desktop, the entire game. So here in the base install, x3ap.exe, this will only work with Steam. So we're going to delete this. We're going to take the one from Egosoft and we're going to put it in here. So now this will let us run the game completely free of Steam. So if I double click this right here, by the way, this is what you want to make your shortcut to. And this shortcut is what you're going to use to run SWLU. So I'm going to name this SWLU. So we can start X3. As you can see, this is the vanilla game running without Steam. So the next step after this is to install Litcube's universe. Now you do want to launch the game at each stage of the process to make sure it's all working, because installation issues are a common problem I've been seeing with people on ModDB. So the next thing is Litcube's universe. So you need to, the first one is Litcube's universe 1.7.1.exe. So you're going to run that. And then you're going to hit next. You need to find your Terran Conflict. In this case, I put it directly on my desktop. Let me find that real quick. Alright, so X3 Terran Conflict directly on the desktop. That's this folder right here that we have our game installed. Hit next. You can pick a GUI. So Litcube actually has many different colors for the game's HUD that you can pick. So let's see, let's pick an obnoxious one, Emerald. So we'll pick Emerald. Install, install. If you're installing for the first time, then you pick the GUI here and you don't need the separate GUI installer. If you ever want to change it, you can use Litcube's GUI installer. So we're not going to end up using that now, but you can use that to change the GUI color if you ever want to. Alright, we will be back once this finishes. Alright, Litcube is just about done installing, and by the way, if you install Litcube and SWLU, there's no going back. If you ever want to revert to maybe just Litcube or just vanilla X3 so you can use other mods like X Rebalance or whatever the other mod you want to use, you're going to have to reinstall the game because Litcube changes basically every aspect of X3. It's going to break the game if you ever try to just delete LU. I mean, you can't simply delete it. You have to reinstall the whole game. So this is the first installer, 1.7.1, so I'm going to delete that now that we've used it. The next thing is the 1.7.2 patch. Run that in a similar way to the last one. This one's really fast, there's not much to it. Same area, install, finish. Okay, that one's done. We will delete this. The last thing is the Litcube soundtrack. Now we do actually, even though SWLU is going to replace this, we do have to install it because it reformats the soundtrack folder in the game files. Because Litcube uses a different system for naming convention for the soundtrack files than the vanilla game. Alright, going to let that install and we will come back once this is finished. Alright, Litcube soundtrack is just about installed. The next step is to install Joubarbe scripts, so satellites monitoring, and another one that I personally like is internal distribution network. These are optional, but I highly recommend them. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract these. I guess I should extract files rather than extract here. So this is satellites monitoring. You need to basically, anything you see in here will have the same names as contents inside of Terran Conflict. So add-on is referring to this add-on folder. So in satellites monitoring, you need to take this scripts and this T, we need to copy them. And then inside of our Terran Conflict, this is where we're installing the game right now. Inside its add-on folder, we need to paste in here. It's very important that it's an add-on and not in the regular Terran Conflict folder. Yes, there are scripts in T in here, but the way it works is X3 Terran Conflict, when Eaglesoft made Albion Prelude, they basically made a new game in the folder add-on. So add-on is all of Albion Prelude's files, and X3 Terran Conflict is just the regular base Terran Conflicts file. So everything we install is going to go in add-on. So that's satellite monitoring. We're going to delete this now. I'm done with that. Internal distribution network. I believe he has install instructions on the Eaglesoft forums, but these files right here, you're going to go to add-on in your game, go to scripts, and you're just going to dump them all here. So we're just going to move these into our game's scripts in add-on. So this is the path. Alright, so we've installed internal distribution network and satellite monitoring. We're done with that. We installed the soundtrack, and we're not going to use the GUI because that's only if you want to change it later on. So once SWLU is installed, you can use this anytime to change the GUI to a different color. But I'm not going to use that, so we're done with that. All right, the next step is to launch our game with the shortcut we created. Just to recap, that is inside Terran Conflict x3ap.exe. So we need to verify that Litcube's Universe has installed. If it'll launch. Alright, so the first thing you can tell is on the launcher it'll say X3 Litcube's Universe. That is the first sign that it is installed correctly. This is the correct Litcube's Universe loading screen. It's a Paranid Demeter in Litcube's Bright Nebulas. And the main menu should show a Goner Temple, bright background, and the music should be, if you're familiar with X3, it's the Gate Hub theme from the vanilla game. Alright, so this is Litcube's Universe. It's installed correctly. Yes, there are Stormtrooper pilots here. That is no relation to LU, Star Wars LU. That's just the pictures he chose. But yes, it is working correctly. We can go in and verify the scripts, but I know they work. So we're going to go ahead and install Star Wars LU, finally. Actually, before I forget, what we need to do as well is we need to make sure that we delete or move our old save files so that they don't conflict, especially if you've been playing X3 previously. So what you need to do is go to Documents, Eaglesoft. So in Eaglesoft is where X3 is going to keep its save files, your control settings, all of that stuff. Now, unfortunately, it's the same folder whether you have different mods. So for each game installation you make, like, you need to have a separate X3AP folder. So if you have been playing X3 before, like say vanilla or something else, there's already going to be a folder in here called X3AP. If there isn't, then you can skip this step and move on. But what you need, this is your old save file. So what you need to do is you need to rename this to something else. And that way you can save it. So if you're not going to play Star Wars LU in the future, you can delete that, and then you could rename this back to X3AP, and it will use it. The game will use whatever folder is called X3AP and nothing else. So if we leave it so that there's no folder in here actually called X3AP, it'll generate a new one when we launch the game, which is exactly what we wanted to do. We can't use our old saves because say you had a save game where you had ships from a different mod, and then you launch the game, you load your save, and those ships no longer exist in your save game, or other things. There's scripts, there's settings, all kinds of problems could arise. So you need to not use your old save files and let it generate a new one. So go in Documents Eaglesoft, just rename your old ones. Make sure nothing is called X3AP. If you're updating Star Wars LU to a new version, you can just skip this step. Just keep your X3AP as is. Nothing should be broken there. But yeah, that's what you want to do. Alright, so Litcube's universe has been installed. We tested that. The next step is to finally install Star Wars LU. So this is again what you get for ModDB. You download the latest version. I've already gone ahead and unzipped it. So in this file, you're going to see install instructions, changelog, X3 Terran conflict, and additional files. Additional files are just some things I've included to help you with the game, such as the map. You can discard all of this right now. In my example, we're not going to be needing that, so I'm going to delete it. So, X3 Terran conflict. This is all of Star Wars LU's files. What you need to do is copy all of these files, and take it to your X3 Terran conflict game that we're working on. So, just paste it right in the root directory right here. Make sure you don't put this in add-on. It needs to go directly in X3 Terran conflict for the game that we're installing. You need to replace all of the files. These are soundtrack files, loading screens that are being overridden right now. So we will return once this has finished. Alright, Star Wars LU has just finished installing. We no longer need the files that we got from the Star Wars LU page. So all we should have left is X3 Terran conflict. This is where our game is installed, and our shortcut to launch the game. In this case, without Steam. You can verify it because if you look in add-on, you should see these numbers go all the way up to 13. These are the files that Star Wars LU has included. So if we go ahead and launch it, as of version 1.2.2, which is the version we are running right now, I'll go ahead and put that in the shortcut. I've actually changed the launcher to include that data, so in all future versions you'll be able to see Star Wars LU on the launcher, the version, and right here on the play button. So that is a verification that you've installed it correctly. The loading screen will also have the version. Alright, and this is the correct loading screen for Star Wars LU. So it has installed correctly. That doesn't mean the game might crash, not crash, or some other bugs, because at the current version right now, 1.2.2, I'm having some issues of crashing. If the game does crash shortly after you start a new game start, I would recommend just closing the game to desktop and relaunching it. In my case, that always fixes it. I apologize for whatever might be causing this, but I'm currently working on sorting that out. Last thing to do is this is where the game is installed. Because it's no longer tied to Steam, you can put this anywhere. So I would make a folder called SWLU is installed, or installed location. And then I would just put this in here to keep track of it. And you can put this anywhere on your computer, in the C drive, whatever, and you'll have the shortcut to launch it. So you can keep this separate from your Steam version. So you can still launch X3 on Steam and play the vanilla game anytime you want, and then you can launch Star Wars LU here because it would have converted the game into Star Wars LU and you wouldn't have had the original game. Alright, and that about concludes it for the installation. If you stick around a little bit longer, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to set up Joubarbe scripts in game, which is what I'm about to do now.